Hi, and welcome to the Evolve CEO podcast. I'm your host, Greg Gillies, and this podcast is designed for high-achieving CEOs, business founders, and entrepreneurs who are looking for ways to expand beyond their business accomplishments, their life, and their relationships. We will be taking a deep dive into all topics relating to success, love, and happiness, and we will be talking a lot around healing, alignment, and manifestation, which is the key to actualizing ourselves and reaching our highest potential. Look forward to you tuning in to this week's episode. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Evolve CEO podcast. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the highs and lows of business. And this can relate to whether you're running your own business or whether you're in a senior corporate position running a company. So what we want to talk about initially are the stages of business. And when we either get into corporate or we start to build our own business, this is always the startup phase, right? This is kind of like the honeymoon phase of building a business. We have a lot of excitement. We have a lot of dreams and ideas and goals, and we're planning for what we're going to create. And in these early stages, these initial stages of startup, what we do, typically what men do, is we create these world pictures and these views in our mind of what the end outcome is going to look like. And this is what gives us this massive motivation and drive to take action and do what we know of or learn what we need to learn so that we can move towards these world pictures and these views of what success and outcome looks like. But the journey, it changes a lot. So I want to talk about these kind of world pictures and world views and what we believe success looks like in our mind when we start on this journey of business and climbing the corporate ladder. What's your opinion on it?
I think some people have this idea in their mind of what it will look like. And as you said, it's almost like this romance with it. And some people, well, we often see this, that they'll just drive that model and they'll drive it into the ground. And they do achieve, because a lot of them are high achievers, that idea, but they didn't really stop to assess the idea along the way or possibly the toll that it was taking. I just think we have a lot of people come and they have these big realizations about their life and what possibly was like a superpower. I know you're going to talk a bit about that, Greg, in your journey, almost then becomes something that is almost like a hindrance through that journey.
Totally. So we go through this first stage, this kind of startup stage where it's all exciting, we're passionate, we're energized, and we just go for it. We take action. And we put all of our skills and our attributes into it. And typically we go into business in a field where we've had skills, right? Whether we've worked in that industry or whether it's maybe a family type business industry that we've just transitioned into because maybe dad did it or so forth. So then we go through the first, let's say 5 to 3 years where we are just driving hard, pushing hard, and we're spinning all of the plates. We're doing all of the work. We need to be the jack of all trades. And I'm talking about a traditional business here. I'm not talking about one that has massive capital raising and investment and can build out an enormous team straight off the bat. I'm talking about your traditional small to medium business where you've gone out and you've literally wanted to run your own race. You wanted to create your own future. You wanted to create some independence, some more financial freedom to support your family. Now, a lot goes on in those early stages. For a lot of businessmen that we speak to, this is typically when they might start a family or they've got a young family. So there is a lot of plates outside of the business. And if you've listened to our mental health and mindset podcast earlier on in our series, we talk about how the mind can only handle so many chunks of information and the level of mental stress that we can put on ourselves by doing too much or taking on too much. So if the mind can typically only handle 7 chunks of information and you're putting 10, 15, 20 different chunks of information from finding clients, looking after clients, finding staff, cash flow management, building out your products and services, HR, all of that sort of stuff. And then you come home and there's more chunks of information. What we tend to see, well, what's typical amongst all high achievers, to be fair, whether you're in business or in corporate, is this level of mental stress creates a deep, ongoing, compounding effect of stress. And this stress makes us feel like we are sometimes out of control. And then as businessmen, we try and lock on to more control because we've got more responsibility and more stress, so that we want more certainty. And this is when the second stage of business, or when you start moving into those high senior levels of corporate, this is when what is once your superpower, your drive, your motivation, your excitement, your energy, can start to become your nemesis. It can start to weigh down on you because you've created so much uncertainty that the level of stress and worry and obsession and trying to control all outcomes starts to weigh down on you as an individual. So we see this a lot, don't we, Tracey? And what do you see is kind of the symptoms of the stressful businessman and the stressful executive?
I think they start mismanaging their life. Mainly, it will probably show the cracks in other areas because they've got this facade, or they've got this. I also feel like business will kind of have these set rules around it. So it's like I turn up and I know what to expect. So it's easier to maybe hide that stress in those situations where it plays by set rules or a game. But when you bring that stress into other areas of your life, family, young children, wow, especially young children, they'll have such heightened emotional states, and all of this extra stress, even like dealing with, your wife and things like that, they don't really play by one set of rules. And it can be hard because people start to maybe not handle their reactions as well in other areas. It might become more noticeable to start with. And it's almost like, because there's this tipping point, it's like a bucket, and I've allowed so much stress to build up. I see it time and time again, so many clients, in fact, all clients will come through with like some form of adrenal dysfunction, where, I've just been kind of pushing myself through. I'm running off adrenaline, I'm running off cortisol. All of those things will mask how I'm really feeling, or depleted, or other health concerns. And then there comes this point in life where it's like I've just pushed so hard for so long, and I start to wobble, or it starts to show where I'm not handling the stress as well.
And it breaks down your health. It literally breaks down your health. So Stress is the hottest topic because it is the biggest underlying cause to breaking down people's health, breaking down relationships, even breaking down businesses. So there's a really important saying out there. When you are running a business, your business is a direct reflection of you. You've started the business, you're heading up the company. You've put all of your energy, you've put all of your soul into this business. It is you. It is a byproduct of you. So when the business is not going well, it triggers you. It triggers every level of you. And if we don't stop and reflect and see how the business is actually a direct reflection of us, and how we need to actually start focusing more on ourselves as the business, then we're just going to dig this hole deeper. And traditionally and statistically, you can see it from business failures to health issues to divorce rates. This is kind of the journey of the driven man. This is the generational programming that we talk about over and over again. Is he sets out and he's got these high, big goals, these big motivations. Likes of myself, I had no trouble taking action. Motivation came really, really easy to me. And I thought it was my superpower until it wasn't. So I would just take massive action. I would work extremely hard. Tracey's laughing now. I would take massive action. I would work extremely hard. And I had these belief systems in my mind. That is exactly what I'm meant to do. That is what I'm here to do. I'm meant to become successful, to be a good provider, to be a protector, to give my family everything that I wanted them to have. But in me stressing and working and literally running myself on adrenaline all of the time, what I actually wanted from my family, I wasn't even there. we weren't even enjoying each other.
But
And
I
we
think
see this time and time again.
even creating business, and people will have this idea of what they want. I'm doing this business for more freedom, all of these different, whatever it is for that person, but they've sacrificed this in the process to get it. And I don't think people realize that until they're way further down that path. But we talk a lot about the spiritual and energy because that's the side of things I work in. And it's like we don't have one rule in our life. So if we're kind of functioning from this place in business, our whole life will be affected by those things. I don't think I explained that as well as
what you were just touching on, Trace, is actually values. And I want to touch on this for a bit because it's the values that drive the belief systems, that drive the behavior, that get a lot of highly driven people. It's not just businessmen. It's what gets us into trouble. Yeah. Because a lot of people, if you ask what their values are, they might say trustworthy, honest, hardworking. They might say all of these things that they want to be perceived as. But when we do a deep, deep dive analysis into a client and identify what their true values are, there is so much misalignment. Like we did a process with our clients at a mastermind where we truly unpack the deepest values. I'm not talking about the surface level mindset values. I'm talking about your soul values. And guys were coming up with love and peace. But the way they were driving their business was all sacrifice. There was no love and peace. It was the exact opposite. But the reason why they're building their business is they wanted to create so much love and peace and harmony, and they were getting the exact opposite because there was so much misalignment. So 100%, that's kind of ties into the energetics of so many people have built a business because society is built and controlled and run on the financial system. And it's all about money. And it's just about, I'm going to build a business. And this is typical. So many people will say that it's my passion and purpose until it's not, until it exhausts them and they get sick of it. But people will typically build a business if they're honest with themselves because they want to make financial abundance so that they can live a great lifestyle. And this promise of one day I will have the time and financial freedom that my business will run without me. And then all the great things will be in place. But they never get to the time and financial freedom is because they ingrain themselves into the business, or even if they put their business under management, we've seen it time and time again, they can't let go. They have literally put everything, energetic, soul, mind, body, everything into the business, thinking it's going to be the vehicle that's going to give them the freedom, the love, the peace, and the happiness, and it robs them of it, and they get really stuck, really confused, and really unwell, and that shows up in their personal life.
Yeah, that's a hard place to be, because when you realize that that superpower that you thought was driving you actually isn't, it shifts. Maybe something once that served us can then also turn dysfunctional, and we're meant to evolve and grow. And as I said, some people have this idea of what success looks like, and a lot of that basis on success will have been built from, we've in the other podcasts, we talk about how developmental stages in life, and we take on all these kind of identities or beliefs about ourselves, and a lot of them aren't really true. And so we kind of drive and have this driving force from these places. And usually it's from lack. Usually it's from kind of fear-based programs as well, really wanting to control things, or somebody said I wasn't good enough, so now I want to show the world that I am. It's like I'm sort of just really pushing through, but it's not from what's really aligned. And even people will go into business and they'll start this business with what once they thought was what they wanted, but we shift and change. And so we work with a lot of people that they will then reassess what they're doing in their business, because they had this path mapped out, and they literally go and walk this path, and then they realize there's almost more that they've been missing, or that it didn't bring them the fulfillment in the way that they were expecting. And it's hard for people, isn't it? Because it's like these ideas, but I don't update them, or I don't reassess myself. We do have clients that will be like number one in the country for a set thing that they're doing, and they'll be like, but that has what has driven me. And then it's like you look at your life holistically and realize, wow, if that takes its toll on your health, and you no longer have that, or you don't, along the way your relationship's broken down, what was the cost of that? I'm not saying don't be successful, but see the true cost of what you're actually paying along the way, and is it still aligned? I think as we grow, especially maybe becoming a father or a mother or these kind of avenues, we shift and change, and so maybe our values need to realign and shift and change as well.
100%. So the amount of people we've spoken to and worked with that are highly driven, self-made, successful business people, businessmen, there is an underlying similarity with all of them. And that is something challenging or traumatic or hard in their upbringing set about this value or this belief system inside of themselves that they are going to use it as ammunition to become successful and to validate themselves in the world. So it's this internal, and it could have been a really poor upbringing as a child. There could have been abuse or alcohol. There could have been an angry father or mother, or maybe their parents separated and they were torn between houses. And I'm not saying everybody has had a really horrific, abusive upbringing, but there is always this underlying similarity that there was some sort of hardship or trauma or challenge in their childhood that then, instead of being a victim, they wanted to be a conqueror. So they used this as ammunition and they set out to become successful in life. And this is where the motivation and the drive and the success comes from. But until you address this underlying cause or trauma or belief systems or values that are inside of you that are actually negative, that was driving you to become successful, when you actually become successful, everything that you thought that would be there, the love, the happiness, the fulfillment, the validation, and all of that sort of stuff, when it's not there, you will then double down and work harder, or you will sacrifice, or you will stress, or you will create more conflict and dysfunction in your life. Or perhaps you'll want to quit. You'll lose passion. You'll lose purpose. You'll get confused. You'll feel stuck in your business or in your corporate. So everything comes back to events in our past, right? But the way the mind works, the way our kind of driven mind works, is it will forget about all of the trauma, the negativity from the past, and it will constantly focus on the future. And this is where we become unstuck. This is where our businesses become highs and lows. Now, I'll give you a perfect example. When the business is going good and cash flow's good and the economy's good and everything's good, typically the businessman will be good. But as soon as there's uncertainty, or there is a pandemic, or they're affected, they can't get enough employees, or inflation, it absolutely rattles them. And they get put off kilter so easily because their whole self-worth, their whole emotional being is attached to the performance of something external to them, which is typically their business, because they've tied all of their self-worth and their validation and their level of proving themselves that they are worthy into this business or into this role or into this title, and it controls them. So what controls you takes your control, if you know what I mean.
It's almost like I create this identity and it's not
all
really
about
serving
identity.
me anymore. So we see a lot of people that might also come and they are possibly looking at the amount of pressure and stress in their business. I know one particular client came in and it just felt like his business was too much. And he thought through the process of seeing us and doing this work that he would maybe scale back. That was the only option he had in his mind. And through the process of healing all of these different things and even that, it's like changing the face of that drive into what it's really like serving you rather than taking from you. I think, did he double his business and actually grow it with less stress?
Yeah, so he went from working long days, overthinking, overanalyzing, stressing, spinning all of the plates, $8 million turnover, one location, to healing his mind, body, spirit, and literally removing himself from the self-created stress and creating the processes, the plans, the vision, and scaled his business to 22 million in 3 locations. But also he's only working 4 hours a day, 4 days a week. So he's playing golf, he's spending more time with his family, his life has completely changed.
It takes a lot for people, though, to be able to step back and drop that control. And even a lot of people have those programs running where they have kind of just valued that overworking side and they don't know how to be any different. Even for people, that in itself, allowing them to have that downtime or stopping their mind from constantly just engaging with work and problems, those are things that run underneath that need healed so that a person can almost free up this capacity to be more than just that business persona, because there is so much more to life, so many more areas being missed when I'm almost all in on this one pillar of life.
So the reason why there's so many highs and lows in business, we've spoken about market conditions in the economy and pandemics. That's one thing that just creates this all of a sudden uncertainty. But what's most important is understanding the business as a reflection of you. And when we go through these stages of growth and we create these kind of rules and these boxes and these kind of paradigms that we need to operate within, we start to shut ourselves off to other learning and other opportunities because we feel so overwhelmed. That when your intuition is sending you a signal that there is something that you need to look at and you literally shut it down, is because your egoic mind is so stressed and you think you're protecting yourself. All you're doing is keeping yourself in this box of stress. And we see so many men, even really wealthy men, who are miserable. And it's because they have built these boxes around them. They've created these rules and these boxes around them for protection, but all it's doing is making them feel trapped and stuck and suffocating. And no amount of financial wealth or next stage of success actually makes them feel any better. Yeah, they just stretch that box, but they protect themselves. We see high-level senior executives and CEOs create walls of protection around themselves because they can't handle the energy of the amount of people in their company and problem solving and all that sort of stuff, and it becomes really unhealthy for the individual. But the worst thing is the man will wear masks and facades like everything is okay, but on the inside, it's not okay.
Yeah, but they almost would have to, because they wouldn't want to show that they were struggling or not in control. There is that pathway to do that healing work in a way that allows you to almost free up and drop some of these restrictions that you've been carrying for years without looking like you are completely vulnerable. Not saying, vulnerability is a great thing, but again, watching the audience where you're delivering that vulnerability to, wouldn't it be?
Totally. Now I'm just going to segue into where we're at in the market, in the world right now. So it's the 28th of February 2023. There is a massive amount of shift and change happening in the world, and it is affecting everybody, and some people are waking up to it and some people aren't. The amount of information that we've been fed around who we should be to be validated and successful in this world, like people saying that you need to be so obsessed with success that when you make it, then you got a 10x or 50x or 100x everything. A lot of these behaviors and a lot of this mentality drilled into a lot of already stressed businessmen is just adding to the stress. We actually need to start going inward. We need to start listening to our intuition. We need to start doing the inner healing, because we're making ourselves sick. We are literally letting external things like relationships and business and market conditions affect our energy. And when it affects our energy and we've got a stressed mind and we're around low energetic vibrating people, it lowers our energy. Now, the energy, and there is a spiritual awakening and an energy happening in the world, and people need to elevate. They need to elevate, but the collective conscious needs to elevate. So if you're running a company and the energy in your company is quite stressed and conflict and you're trying to build culture, but you're not working on yourself internally as the leader first, it doesn't matter how much you try and tell your people what they need to do, it is always going to be a direct reflection of your energy. And this is where so many business leaders and businessmen get in this constant conflict with what they desire and what they want to see, but what the reality is. And they're not able to look at themselves because they're in these boxes of protection that they don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to admit that this could be them projecting into their business. So this is really important. So we're talking about highs and lows of business, but honestly, business is just one pillar of your life. In our 9-pillar framework, business and finances and lifestyle, it might control and overcome your energy, and you become obsessed in there because the masculine ego's belief system is, if I become highly successful and validated and I conquer the business and finance and lifestyle, then everybody will love me and I'll be happy. And then their marriages break down. They're not present for their children, so they don't have the love and connection, and their health starts to suffer because there's mental, physical, and spiritual dysfunction and stress that is running them down. So this is the key to being successful in business. It's not more strategy. It's not more tools. It's not more structure. It's not better people. It's about you doing the inner mental, physical, and spiritual work so that you can raise and elevate yourself, and the dream clients, the dream employees, cash flow issues, they start taking care of themselves. And this is really hard for the analytical mind to comprehend, but this is the truth. And this is why so many businessmen are stressed, burning themselves out, and stuck, is because they are trying to create change from an old place. You need to create the change internally to become a new version of yourself, to then see it change externally in your life through your business and your relationships, your health and your happiness.
Yeah, otherwise you're just coming from the same platform, and you'll just get more of what you created in the past that wasn't serving you until you do. Even we're talking about, physical and mental dysfunction. When people are holding that much stress, they get stuck in something called sympathetic nervous system dominance, deep survival stress state. And all I can do from that place is I'm so attached to my mind and stress, anything else looks like a stress. And, I won't even be able to see possibilities, or I won't even be able to sort of have this new path, because even like my central nervous system is so inflamed that anything will trigger me. So in that place, that's what a lot of the world is stuck in. It looks like lack. It looks like I don't have enough. Believe me, we have clients with beautiful, beautiful lives, and yet there is this deep hole, and the success and the physical attainment hasn't filled it. And when you look at healing these places, I view my life differently. I realize I've got more than enough, or maybe it's just slight changes that free me up to actually enjoy what I've created, because there's nothing worse. Like, we see people that would say they feel like an ATM, right, Greg? And all of these different things. And they've just created this extravagant life, and yet they're not enjoying it. So there is ways, without changing a lot, it's change yourself, to change circumstance or your situation, or even the way you conduct yourself in your business.
Totally. And it's so common that we react. We are so overthinking nowadays. We're so over worrying. We're so over analytical. We're so over stressed. We've done a previous podcast on normalizing stress and burnout. That's exactly what's happening in the world. The level of stress, speed, information, and demand in our world right now is making everybody just normalize how much pressure and stress they're putting on themselves. And then they don't want to complain because it looks like a weakness. So they go, well, I need to just do more, or fight more, or break through the next barrier.
Or learn more. Let's just put more information in here that is actually creating more stress, because, again, the mind is already overloaded. And I guarantee you have all the answers you need within you. You just need to be able to unlock that within you, because that is what we're all searching for, is this reconnection, in all areas of our life. But it starts with that reconnection to ourselves.
Now, even if you're listening to this and you are a driven, successful businessman, and you've got a great relationship with your wife, and you're putting in the effort to be available for your children, and you go to the gym and you're trying to eat clean and all that sort of stuff, but you still feel stuck, you still have this deep level of survival stress. Your body is still running on adrenaline. And sometimes, or actually quite often, a lot of our high achieving, higher performing business leaders and men that we see, the exercise and the push through and just how they do everything extreme, it's adding to it. So your mind is thinking, yeah, but I exercise, I'm doing this, I train for this, I eat clean, I've cut out the alcohol, I'm doing all this sort of stuff. But there's still a lot of extreme, right? The body can only heal, rest, and repair through silence. So if you're not getting incredible sleep and you're not silencing your mind for regular periods of time, then your body's not actually resting and repairing. And we can just go and flog ourselves at the gym and we can just try so much harder, but we're never truly present. Anything on that?
No, I guess my story, your story as well, was just to double down, do more, be better. Work harder at the gym, work harder at business, do all these things. These actually are much more enjoyable or easier solution.
That's what the noisy world tells us. Honestly, as a entrepreneurial businessman, for me to learn how to enjoy doing nothing and slowing down without the guilt or thinking about all the things that I could be doing has been one of my greatest challenges, but one of the most important things that I've had to do to elevate and change every area of my life. And I'm still on that journey. This is a constant, never-ending journey, is because we live in a world and we do marketing on social media, right? So we're on social media to build our business, and yet you see all of this noise and information and everything gets remarketed to you based on who you are in your industry that you're in, that if you get caught up in it, it just triggers those stress responses. Do more, need to do more. I'm not getting ahead. You're judging yourself. You're comparing. The amount of comparison that we as driven people or anybody put on ourselves, and we're seeing it in teenagers, this is one of the biggest underlying causes to our stress. Then we take that into our business and we just do too much. People don't know how to simplify their lives. And what they want ultimately is a simple life full of love and joy, peace and happiness, but they don't know how to do it. So they cause drama, conflict and dysfunction. And then they're out of balance with themselves. And then they just go, well, it can't be me because I'm doing everything in my power to create this success. So it must be you. It must be your wife's fault. It must be your employee's fault. It must be your team's fault. It must be the economy's fault. And that just puts you into victim state. And nobody wants to be a victim, but we can get caught up there if we don't change the paradigms in our mind around why we are doing things and re-identify with our deepest values.
Because the mind will also tell you that if you just have this, that will make you happy.
Oh.
And you just reach that next level and you just do these things and then that will be okay. And then we get there and we go, well, I don't understand. Why am I still feeling this gap? Why am I still feeling this disconnection in my life when I've kind of lived by that rule book that I created for myself? Well, maybe the rule book's wrong and you need to actually change the rules.
And the rule book is internal.
Yeah.
So we could talk about this all day long. This podcast is actually about the highs and lows of business, but business is only one pillar of your life. This is about the highs and lows of every pillar of your whole life. And it's about the belief systems, the conditioning, the values, and the behavior that we create typically from a negative or traumatic experience that makes us want to be more successful so that we can validate and prove ourselves in the world. And then that goes on to creating a whole lot of dysfunction and conflict and stress. And now we need to relook at ourselves. We need to revisit ourselves. We need to come in and we need to literally reprogram, heal, and realign ourselves to our true path, our truth, and what we are actually here to do that is greater than just the dollars in your bank account. Yeah. So we will be talking a lot more on these topics. Business is a really important topic because it is a vehicle for you to create time and financial freedom, but don't let it take away your time and financial freedom. So I look forward to seeing you in the next podcast. All the best in your business. And if you, tune in.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Evolve CEO podcast. If you value the information that is in our podcast, please like, subscribe, and add a review to our podcast page, because it'll help us understand the value that you are receiving, and more importantly, spread the word of this podcast. Also, share it with your friends and your family. Now, every listener of our podcast gets a free gift from us, and this is our 9 Pillars of Success, Love and Happiness life assessment. This is the exact same life assessment that our high-level clients, which are CEOs and business leaders, go through on an annual basis so that they can assess and reflect the past 12 months of their life and then plan their desired outcome for the next 12 months of their life. And this is our gift to you for listening in. So please follow the links below and you'll find the link to the assessment page. You'll also find Tracey and my social media links. We would love for you to connect with us on our social media channels, follow our additional content on there, as we want to provide as much value as we can in the event of helping you create more success, love and happiness in your life. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next episode.